Welcome to MrClef.com's review of Presidents Washington through Monroe, brought to you by Noble Review, Concise Review Books. In the newly formed United States of America, George Washington became the Electoral College's unanimous choice for president. There are some precedents that he set as the first president. He established a two-term limit, provided a farewell address, and formed a cabinet to aid him in decision-making. These were part of the unwritten Constitution, or stuff that the government does that's not directly in the Constitution. In his cabinet, the Secretary of the Treasury was Alexander Hamilton. He dealt with financial affairs. His plan was to pay off debts, foreign and domestic, by issuing new bonds to cover old debts. He believed debt would sacrifice the United States' economic reputation. He also supported a national bank to monitor and control the money supply. It was passed through the Elastic Clause, which gives Congress power to do anything they deem to be necessary and proper. This creates a loose interpretation of the Constitution, but not everyone agreed with Hamilton. The Secretary of State was Thomas Jefferson. To know the differences between Hamilton and Jefferson, use this mnemonic device: safe plans. Jefferson favored states' rights and a strict interpretation of the Constitution. A strict interpretation means to only use the Constitution conservatively to limit the federal government's power. He favored agriculture, France and foreign affairs, and the educated and common man. Hamilton favored the propertied and rich, loose interpretation, the creation of a strong army, a national bank, and a strong central government. The divisions over the bank led to the first split in political parties: the Federalists and the Democratic Republicans. The first test for the new government's army was the Whiskey Rebellion, as moonshiners protested against Hamilton's whiskey tax. Washington, as commander-in-chief, sent in the army. Unlike Shays's rebellion, which raged out of control without a centralized army under the Articles of Confederation, this rebellion was put down rather easily by the United States under the stronger Constitution. Washington called for neutrality, or staying out of foreign alliances and conflicts. It was vital for the young nation, who was weak militarily, to use its natural ocean borders to its advantage. Washington sent John Jay to Britain to make a treaty. It was unpopular in the United States because it did not end in pressment, which was when the British seized American sailors and forced them into the British Navy. The Jay Treaty upset the French, so the next president, President John Adams, sent over envoys who were asked to pay a $250,000 bribe to speak to a diplomat. The U.S. refused to pay it, and this so-called XYZ affair led to the quasi-war with France. To control the hysteria in the country, the unpopular Alien and Sedition Acts were passed. These allowed for the deportation of undesirables, and they limited free speech. In protest to these acts, Thomas Jefferson and James Madison wrote the Kentucky and Virginia resolutions, which stated that such laws should be declared null and void by the states. Though Jefferson was for states' rights, as president he would favor a strong executive. After the House of Representatives chose him in the controversial election of 1800, he became the third president of the United States. His election was also called the Revolution of 1800, as the Democratic Republicans finally and peacefully took power from the Federalists. Looking to gain control of New Orleans for agricultural trade, Jefferson had the opportunity to buy the entire Louisiana territory. Using loose interpretation, which was uncharacteristic of Jefferson, he purchased it through a treaty. The Louisiana Purchase doubled the size of the nation. Also to know about Jefferson was that he sponsored Lewis and Clark's adventure to the west, sent gunboats to Tripoli to defeat the Barbary pirates in the first overseas U.S. operation, and, attempting to maintain neutrality, he signed the very unpopular Embargo Act, which cut off trade to Europe. It was gradually repealed and was the most controversial of Jefferson's policies. During this time, John Marshall strengthened the power of the Supreme Court. His decision in Marbury v. Madison established judicial review, or the ability for the Supreme Court to determine if a law is constitutional or not. Marshall had these other landmark decisions as well, which made the government stronger. As president, James Madison was known for the War of 1812, which was caused by impressment, a quest for more land, and a desire to finally remove the British from the Northwest. The war ended with no land exchanges according to the Treaty of Ghent. The war led to much nationalism, and the death of the Federalist Party after the Hartford Convention. With only one party, the war resulted in what's called the era of good feelings. Kentuckian Henry Clay believed the United States could be self-sufficient and sustain itself. His American system supported a national bank, high tariffs to protect American jobs, and an internal improvements bill to support infrastructure. The full idea was never passed, however. For President Monroe, you have to know about the Monroe Doctrine. It was a statement that looked to prevent other European nations from colonizing and meddling in the affairs of countries in the Western Hemisphere. The U.S. could make the statement because they were being backed by Britain. For a review of Andrew Jackson's administration, click here. For more review, you can find free flashcards and review sheets at MrClaff.com. We also invite you to check out Noble Review in both paperback and e-book formats. Best of luck on your tests.